I want to say hi to everybody. It's so fun to see some people that are working along with me. My name is Emily Schuermann, and you may have noticed that I'm not in my home kitchen. I'm in the Kiepersol salt kitchen today. I've had a fun time traveling around, getting a tour of the winery and watching grapes be harvested and pressed and put into the first stages of the fermenting process. And so I really had a great day, and I'm so excited to get to work through a full meal with you guys this evening. So if this is the first time that you've seen me with Kiepersol, let me just introduce myself because we're going to spend the next hour and a half cooking together. My name is Emily Schuermann. I am a food writer and blogger. I write recipes for my blog, Food for a Year. And I also do some other work for other companies and have recently partnered with Kiepersol to do some fun and interactive Instagram posts over the last month or so, and all with the intention of getting some activity in the salt kitchen and getting you guys in the kitchen and interacting together over some yummy food and some delicious wine. And so this evening we have a 3-course meal. The idea of the meal, the recipes that I picked were something that's a building block that as you get comfortable with the different ingredients and the steps and those sorts of things, that you can really take these and run with them and make them your own. But we're going to start off with a green bean and beet salad with a honey mustard vinaigrette. And then we're going to move on as the beets are roasting and the vinaigrette is doing its thing. We're going to move on to our main course, which is simply chicken in tomato sauce. The Italian name of that is pollo in pistachio. And then we're going to finish up with the recipe that I'll be sharing for this is one of those that you're going to stick in your pocket. You're going to be making it on those late nights when you just need a little something sweet and you have a little bit of wine, yummy, good sweet wine left over. And I'm just going to show you how to turn some wine and berries into a really yummy red berry sauce. So we're going to start, if you all either are watching me prep or if you've got your ingredients, we're going to go ahead and start by preparing our beets. And so I went to the grocery store here in Tyler this afternoon, and I saw a really beautiful selection of beets at Fresh by Brookshire's, that beautiful store. There were some large red and purple and gold beets, and then there were these little, really like 2 bite-sized beets. And I could not resist these. So this is not what my recipe said, but we're going to peel and chop and prep our beets, and we're going to roast them. And I want to show you what happened when I picked this light red color beet, what happens on the inside. So let's go ahead, if you're following along, we're going to go ahead and rinse and peel. Just if your beets are very small, it won't need very much peeling, but we're going to give a little peel to remove kind of that outer tough skin. And chop off that root end and the leafy green end. And as we get those beets prepped, we're going to dice those into a bite-sized dice. And mine, you can tell, actually look like maybe they're a turnip. When I first started peeling these, I was surprised to see it's white. But I'm going to show you what happens when I cube it. So we're just going to kind of work through those beets, get those prepped. And, let me tell you, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and preheat your oven to 425. Get yourself a baking sheet. And we're going to toss our beets and, both varieties of beet in some cooking oil and salt and pepper as soon as we cube it. So get those beets, get them prepped. And then if you have an assistant like I do, you may want to go ahead and start boiling a pot of water. We're going to blanch our green beans. And if you're doing that, if you're by yourself, I'm not going to rush you. We have all the time in the world. But if you have somebody who's itching to help, go ahead and fill a pot with water and add about a teaspoon of salt to that water. Okay? So look what my beets look like on the inside. Isn't that a beautiful beet, this like candy cane stripe? So I can't wait to see what it looks like when you roast it. And I'm just chopping these into, I would say about the size of a blueberry. We want all the edges to caramelize and get a little bit golden and crisp. And so we want to cut those to where they're uniform in size, but they also can cook to get tender in about 25 minutes. So let's just keep prepping those. If anyone has any questions, you all know Michael, and he's here
And can you show
camera, assisting me.
Can you show us the side of the beet that you're cutting again?
Okay, do you want to see my cut size?
Yeah.
This is the cut.
Right.
Let me show you. This is the beet before it's cut.
Well, I'm using the bigger version, but I'll cut it to your size.
Okay, so I like the size. It's about the size, maybe a bigger blueberry. Okay, so we're just going through, and I'm working right along with you. I'm about halfway through. We're going to end up having with those, if you have 2 large beets, we'll probably end up having about 2.5, 3 cups of beets. It really, you know how beets are. It really depends on how big your beet is. But I'm going for around 2.5 cups.
Are you all ready?
Oh, well, look at this.
You know, this is just a really good time of year for beets and those root vegetables, especially if you've planted a late garden. Then they're tender and sweet, so I really like using beets at this time. Then I have some of these golden beets, and obviously you don't have to use all the colors. I just think they're pretty in roasting. If all you could find was purple or red, that's no problem. And I was talking earlier, my leaf, I have a whole bucket, let me show you. Look at all for my little bit of beets, look how many beet greens that I have. So we were talking about, well, what would you do with all those greens? You know, beets leaves are a little bit bitter, similar to chard or collard greens in texture as well. And so if you want to do a chiffonade, just roll those up and chop them into ribbons. You can treat that almost as a noodle in a soup or a sauce. And it can add a really yummy dimension to your soups and stews or a ragu. You can layer it in lasagna, throw it with some onions. I am going to save my beet tops because in my garden we planted these and we did this about 2 weeks ago and new leaves are growing out. I'm interested to see if a beet forms, but new leaves are growing out. So that's a suggestion. Today when we were watching the harvest of grapes, and Ron, it was you who I talked to, right? Yeah. All that leftover, the stems and all that was going to the cows. I guess we could give these little skins to the cows. We could throw these in. I actually raise Holland locks, show bunnies, show rabbits, and this is their kind of food. So I've got 2 more beets to chop, and then we're going to move on to getting these in the oven. And let's see, maybe I've already done it. Oh, no, put it on.
I am sorry, but we cannot wait, so cheers, everyone.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, we're pulling out the line.
Yes.
Oh, I'm about to, so we'll all be together. Okay, so after we get our beets chopped, is everyone kind of in that got your beets done phase? We're going to get these and toss it with our salt and pepper and our olive or our cooking oil. And so let me move this here. I've got my about 2 cups. Move my beets out of the way. And I've got about maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I really want the outside of the beet to have a salty, not overly salty, but I want to notice that salt on my palate when I eat them. And then I'm going to give a nice pinch of just a finely ground black pepper. And then we're just going to give this a coating of cooking oil. Like I said, a little coating of cooking oil, about a tablespoon. And then I'm just going to give it a toss. Get all the oil all over all of it. And you know what that does is it just allows those outer edges of the beet to crisp up as it roasts. And you know what we're looking, our goal is to get as much flavor out of this beet as possible. One of the ways we do that is to caramelize the outside, and oil helps to do that. Okay, so we're just going to put that on a roasting pan or a sheet pan. Give it room. We want everything to be evenly. Let's see if I tilt this for you. It's going to slide. But we want everything to be evenly spaced. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Evenly spaced. And then we're going to put this in the oven. And you guys are going to help me with the timer, and Mike is too. We're going to check this in 20 minutes. Okay? So let's get this in here. Is everybody's beets in the oven? Okay, so we're just wiping off any of that grit that the beets are kind of notorious for leaving behind. So we don't want to get that in the rest of our meal. And then we're going to move on to, let's see. Sorry, this is sending me messages there. Okay, let's move on to our green beans. So typically when you're eating a salad, you're thinking about leafy greens, and that's kind of a spring idea in my mind. And as we're, harvest, I'm looking out here at the winery, the vineyard, and I see the colors that you all know. We're starting to see some of those golden colors and the rust colors, and I'm starting to think about fall, even though it is 95 today. My heart is ready for some fall. And so instead of those spring mix, I'm really thinking of a salad and a little bit heartier textures. And so our salad is going to be a combination of fresh green beans and beets. And so if you can go ahead and get your fresh green beans ready. We're doing about 8 ounces. We're imagining that between the beets and the green beans, we're having 4 servings here. And you're just going to go through them, and if there are any of those stem ends, you're going to pop those off. If your green beans have that extra little string, those little threads that come on sometimes or grow on some types of green beans, go ahead, if it's easy, and pull those off. We're going to help that little issue with the string along by chopping these larger pieces of green bean. I'm throwing green beans all over the place, sorry. By chopping these in half, okay? So if you have some full length, we're just gonna kind of grab those and give them 1 chop, because just as much as we were thoughtful about the size of our beet and having to be bite-sized, we want to be thoughtful about what it's like to eat this salad together, beets and green beans. And I know from experience, because I've had this several times, it's a lot easier to have a bite of half a green bean than trying to figure out how to eat a whole green bean with the small bean. So we're just thinking about the future as we're preparing this. And I'm just giving, like I said, all my long green beans. Some of mine are kind of already broke up for me. But just to chop in half. And is everybody's water boiling now? If it's not, we're getting close, I'm getting close. And what we're gonna do on this is we're just gonna blanch these green beans. They need to be in the water for about 4 minutes. And then we're gonna shock them. So we wanna maintain that beautiful green color. It's gonna be so pretty against the colors of our beets. But we just want a little bit more tender texture of green bean. These can be really firm. So that's what we're gonna do next. And my water's almost boiling. And if I get to moving too fast, just wave the white flag and we'll slow down or go back or give you a second to catch up. Okay, so once you've got all your green beans, I think I've got mine. I'm gonna put these in a colander. If you happen to have a steaming basket, that would work nice too. But I have a large pot and I'm gonna set my colander in that large pot and then I'm gonna lift it out and put it in my ice water. So if you're done chopping green beans but your water is not done boiling or getting to a boil, go ahead and prepare a bowl of ice water too, or just cold water. Cold water will help to stop it if you don't have ice water, so that's what I've got here. And I'm going to tell, steam tells me my water's going. So I'm going to move my green beans over here. Like I said, I've got these handles on this colander. It's a stainless steel colander. And so I'm just going to set it in here. And I've already salted that water. I'm just going to put the lid back on. 4 minutes on that. Okay. We're going to pause. You all aren't going anywhere and I'm not going anywhere. We're just going to celebrate the fact that we're in a beautiful place with some delicious wine.
Cheers, Emily. Did you say
Cheers.
4 minutes? Did you say 4 minutes for the beans?
Yes, 4 minutes.
Thank you.
4 minutes. I have the speaker on this phone, but I see you on this phone. It's funny. So I'm having, what did he say? This is the Texas Artes. Texas Artes right now. It's lovely. You know, it really is true as we are tasting these flavors and smelling these things. The next time I have this variety of wine, I'm going to remember this moment. That's what I love about food, is it's a stamp of an experience. So makes me really thankful to be here and getting to work with you guys. I'm peeking at my green beans to see what's happening. Where are we? 1 minute left or 1 minute?
We've been in 1 minute.
We've only been in 1 minute. Oh, they're starting to sweat. They're turning bright green, really looking good. Thank you. Okay. So, what do we have, like 2 minutes left on that?
We have about 1 minute.
1 minute, okay. So we have about 1 minute left on those green beans. And I already have my vinaigrette ingredients, my honey mustard vinaigrette nearby. So if you don't have your stuff nearby and you have a helper that can help you, or you can, let's go ahead and start accumulating your vinaigrette ingredients. I have a hot pad.
That should be it.
This is my classic operating procedure, is where do I set my hot pad all the time. Okay. I want you to see
12 minutes on beets.
how gorgeous. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing I am, but if you're just watching and not following along in the kitchen, I want you to see how beautiful this color turned. And then we're just gonna immediately submerge it in the water to allow that to stop cooking. And we're just gonna leave that here for now.
Ice water salted.
And if you didn't, I don't think I told you, I don't think I said it, but if you haven't salted your ice water, go ahead and sprinkle in about half a teaspoon of water in that salt. Thank you. Of salt in your ice water, because what we're trying to do is keep those green beans seasoned and just a light accent to that green bean. And once we salted our boiling water, we want to salt our ice water so that we don't dilute those flavors. I'm going to go ahead and have a snack and see how my texture is. It's really good. It definitely still has an al dente bite for me, and we preserved the sweetness of the green bean that I think is going to go really good. Some of you may have a bigger, a thicker, a tougher green bean than I do. If you're tasting it and it's too tough for you, go ahead and give it a couple more minutes. But I really like that crunch. I feel like I have something fresh that's going to be really good in my salad. Okay, let's move on to our vinaigrette, and then we're going to start our chicken. And the chicken is in 3 20-minute sections. So let's get our vinaigrette going, and then we'll move on to the next. So I asked you for the vinaigrette to have a 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar. And I really like white wine vinegar. It is an elevated flavor over a white vinegar, and it's not as harsh as an apple cider vinegar. It just has a really light flavor that I really appreciate. I think it'll go well with our chicken. So, okay, let me move that 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar. And we have a 1/4 of a cup of a good extra virgin olive oil. Beautiful green color. And then, we'll do that in a second. I don't want to forget to toast the pecans, but we want to give them our attention. We don't want to burn the pecans, so. I'm going to do about 2 pinches or 3 of black pepper. And then for our salt, I'm going to add, remember, this is the only seasoning that this salad is going to experience after cooking. So we're going to add about, 3/4 of a teaspoon, and we can come back and add more later if we need to. And then I have some yummy local honey that I have been enjoying little taste tests. I keep having to test it. Taste tests all afternoon from Elsner Farms. And I keep looking at the recipe over here if you're wondering, and then I get distracted. We need 2 tablespoons of this. This is really the heart and soul of this vinaigrette, is this local raw honey. Mine is crystallized. That's what happens when you start to use it. I've noticed sometimes, maybe there's a trick that I don't know. That is no problem that it has any that is crystallized. As a matter of fact, even if you got a little sugary bit in the vinegar, in the vinaigrette, I think that would just be an extra lovely little treat, but I think it'll dissolve. And then we need 2 teaspoons of a really good Dijon mustard. I picked up some Dijon mustard from the store, the Fresh at Berkshire's this afternoon, and it is lovely. It has a white wine base that Dijon does, so it really goes well with our white wine vinaigrette. And I'm just giving this a good whisk. That mustard does 2 things. It adds flavor, and it helps to emulsify. So we're going to get our whisk and seriously go down on that. And that'll kind of thicken up the olive gonna give it a taste test, see if I like the amount of salt that I put in there. I think it needs a pinch more. I'm gonna add another pinch. So you taste yours and you season according to your taste. What I love about this vinaigrette is that the Dijon is not enough to overpower that flavor of the honey. The honey is the real star. And I just think that the beets are gonna be really shine with that flavor of honey. So we're gonna set that vinaigrette aside. We need to feel proud that we have accomplished a really important part of our evening with the beets and the green beans and the vinaigrette. I'm gonna clean off my board. We have to toast our pecans. You can, let me get my pan here. You can either leave them raw or toast them. This evening I'm going to toast them. I really like raw pecans. And these are from, my mom and dad have a little pecan orchard. So these are from my home. Beautiful pecans. But I know Texas is all about pecans too. That's why I made this recipe. I figured y'all would enjoy pecans. So we're only putting these into the oven 5 minutes on the beets. We're going to put these in for about 30 seconds. All we want to do is release the oils in the on the pecans. So if you can just slide that into the oven, and then we're just going to kind of mentally count to 30. And drink a glass of wine. Okay, I'm getting out my pecans. Mine are still cool in the middle. I'm going to give them another 15 seconds. My beets are looking good. We have 5 more minutes before we. Oh, go ahead.
Are you using whole pecans or do you chop them?
Mine were broken.
Okay.
There were a couple that were whole, but they were broken. Some were broken. If you want to leave it whole while we toast, and then we can give a rough chop after, that helps to not burn the pecans ahead of time. I found it's easier to burn when they're chopped first. Okay, I'm going to take a taste test. I think my pecans can go for it. I think the hot part is at the top. I think you said you have 1 more minute on our beets?
You have 3 minutes on your beets.
3 minutes on the beets. I can smell the beets. Do you smell them? Yeah, they smell really good. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to our chicken, and we're not forgetting about those pecans. We're going to go ahead and start getting our pot hot, our pan hot. So we need 4 tablespoons of butter, and we need 4 tablespoons of cooking oil, and that's about, let's see, 1/8 of a cup is 2 tablespoons, so it's about 1/4 of a cup of oil. And we're going to turn our flame to about a medium high. We want that oil to start melting, or the butter to start melting. I'm pulling my pecans out now, no matter what. Oh yeah, the white has turned a nice creamy milky color. I can tell they've done a really good thing. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to give my beets a shake. And I can see, oh, they're looking so good. We're going to test them in just a couple minutes, but they're starting to look more caramelized. While my butter and oil is melting, we're going to start preparing our garlic and onions. I'm actually going to turn mine. I'm learning how to adjust this stove top, so mine's getting a little hotter than I wanted. We don't want the butter to burn. So we're doing rings. I'm going to do half rings, just easier for me to chop. And I'm going to slice that white onion into, I said thin, but you don't want it paper thin to where it's going to burn. So we want, like this, that. So we're going to chop that onion. Then we're going to put that in there with a couple of cloves of garlic, and I'm going to show you a trick on the garlic. For this recipe, we're going to be removing the garlic at a stage, at the stage before we add the sauce. And I want to show you what that looks like. So I had a little bit larger than medium onion, so I'm saving half for the dice and the sauce. And I'm adding half now and let that start to cook. And then I'm going to get my garlic. Beets are ready. Okay, we're going to check those beets. That's been 20 minutes. But let's get this garlic in real quick. So I'm going to take 2 cloves of this nice head of garlic. And you can kind of, if yours is having a hard time breaking apart, you can give it a nice little bash. I'm finding 2 or 3. Mine, I've got one good small clove, and then I've got, a good size clove, and then I've got a couple small ones. And so we're not going to remove all the paper. If it comes off, that's great. But you don't have to. We're going to remove that, and there is a little bit of a trick with the paper. Maybe it's a wives' tale. Maybe you've heard this before. But it helps to remove the bitterness of the garlic. So I'm leaving the paper on mine. I'm not chopping the garlic. I'm just leaving them whole, but I gave them a good bash with the side of my knife in order to help release the flavor in the oil. And we're going to place that in there. Okay, let's check our beets. I'm cleaning my board again. I'm just pushing it off to the side for now. And I'm going to get my beets out and see what they look like. I can see they're sizzling. You hear that? Let's taste one. So I'm looking to see if it's tender. It is not. It's still got a crunch. Mine need at least, I would say, 7 more minutes.
Okay.
The flavor, though, is crazy good. How are y'all's beets coming along?
Look great.
Okay, good. Good. So I'm putting mine back in for 7 minutes. I'm setting the timer. This will be done. It would be fine how it is if you were in a hurry and wanted, like, you just couldn't stand it any longer. But I want just a little bit more creaminess on that. Okay, so I've got my onions and garlic going. The smell in here is, I would say, restaurant worthy. And I'm moving on in our notes to get to the chicken. Okay, let's get our chicken out. When we're dealing with raw chicken, I know you guys know this. But I want to take some extra precautions. And so after, let me just make sure I can flip this board over. After I deal with my chicken, oh yeah. So I'm going to deal with chicken on this side of the board, and then we're going to flip our board over, kind of giving us a new surface so that we can kind of finish up with those berries nicely. I found beautiful chicken thighs, skin on, bone in chicken thighs at Fresh by Berkshire's today. And what we're going to do, let's see, I just had, oh, here it is. There was some extra flaps of skin on mine, a little bit of the tougher fat that's not the kind that kind of crisps up, but that just stays real thick. And so we're just gonna trim those bits that may be hanging off. This is a personal preference. If you don't want to do that, if you like all those things, I always tell my students it's chef's choice. It's chef's privilege to decide what to do. But I'm just going to discard that chicken, and we have a nice trimmed chicken thigh. Okay, so let me take this, and we want to give a good dose of pepper and salt to each side. Actually, I'm going to take that metal tray back. I'm going to lay these out so that when we go to put them in the pan, they're all kind of individual. So salt and pepper each side of your chicken, understanding that it's one step in the process. And when I bought these thighs, they were in packs of 3. And so I know we only needed 4 to begin with, but I bought 2 packs of 3. So I'm going to have 6 thighs to work with today. So we're just going to salt and pepper each side and lay it out. Your butter should be nice and toasty. Your pan should be hot, getting ready for adding the thighs. Oh, and I found a little bit more to trim. Yeah, just trim it a little bit more here. And you don't have to use chicken thighs. That's just, I like it. I think it's a very forgiving, let me move this out of the way. A very forgiving cut of chicken. It doesn't dry out like a breast can. It can handle a little bit of overcooking, and you still have a really delicious outcome. And so we've got our chicken thighs. I'm going to bring this over to our hot and sizzling butter. And we're going to lay these skin side down. So we don't want to crowd. And I'm actually giving them a nice little press. We may end up only fitting 5 in here. Skin side down. And we're going to leave that for just a couple of minutes because our goal is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to hold off on these. I don't want to overcrowd. Kind of messes up my rhythm. We'll deal with those later. So we want to brown all the sides of the chicken thigh. That's next. And let's see. I'm going to wash my hands. I think it's as good a time as any to wash our hands. Right.
Hey, Ron, did I see you have a question?
No, I'm good. Got the chicken thighs? Brian.
I don't.
What?
Because she's trying to brown it.
Emily, I'm sorry.
Let's check the beets.
Emily, I'm sorry, we missed you. Are you browning the chicken in a different skillet?
I'm browning the chicken with the onions and butter and garlic and oil.
Thank you.
All together.
Thank
It's
you.
all together.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, that's exactly what I was asking. If you're doing it with the onions, and thank you.
Yes, yes, I am. Okay, so let's take these beets out. I'm going to test them one more time. Okay, and we're going to also flip that. Before I even, let me pause and flip all this over. Okay. And I'm going to test my beets. Those are really good. How are your beets? Do they need more time? If you take a bite of your beets and you taste some of the RTs, it's a wonderful together. It's a real, I didn't do that on purpose, but it's really, really good. Okay, so let's look at our chicken. Let's see what's happening on this underside. We're wanting it to get to a golden. I'm seeing that mine's not there yet. So this is, the skin is the most important. We want that to crisp up and turn golden. And if you notice that your garlic is starting to burn, just pick that up and put it on top of your chicken. We don't want burned garlic. And mine is starting to come along. This process of browning the chicken is going to take about 10 minutes, we should expect, easily 10 minutes. So this is not, I would consider this not quite done yet, if you can see that color. I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm going to drain my green beans. Let's see, where did I put my colander? Here it is. And I'm going to just kind of lift this out of the ice that it was in. And I'm just going to add it to my pan with my beets. So we're giving it a shake, get that water off. And we're about to pull those beets out of the pan, but I'm just going to let these green beans kind of coat in that cooking, the cooking juices from the beets. Now this is where one of those, the mesh strainers that are handheld is handy, because you can just dunk it in a bath of water and then lift ice water and then lift it up, and you don't have to kind of pick through the ice. But
We got a question here.
okay.
All right, Mary, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, what are you adding to what just now? You were like, take it somewhere and put it.
I'm taking my green beans and I threw them into my pan with my beets.
With the beets.
And I'm
Okay.
hang on, let's check this chicken real quick. Okay, perfect. I'm flipping mine over and then I'll show you what I did with those green beans. So we're getting that medium, pretty golden. blend it. I'm gonna rotate this around. Okay, let me show you what I did, Mary. I have my pan of beets that have roasted, and I just took my green beans out of the ice water, and I'm just giving it a little toss. Matter of fact, I've got a pair of tongs here. And the only reason I'm doing that is the cooking juices for those beets were so gorgeous that I'm just trying to coat my green beans in it. It's just an extra little, not wasting those flavors. And then we're gonna pull those to the side. I'm gonna put them in a serving bowl. Hang on. We're gonna put these green beans and beets in a serving bowl and set it aside. And we'll be assembling our salad. So I'm just pouring that in here. And now we're gonna move that roasting pan away. So this is what I have right now. This is just the beets and green beans together. So good. So I'm gonna get that out of the way. I'm checking my chicken again. We don't want to burn anything. Okay. And now we're just kind of going through the process of browning each side. And I'm just noticing, I'm new to this kitchen, so I'm noticing that the back is a little bit hotter than the front. So I'm just kind of making sure I'm rotating stuff. Is y'all's chicken close to being browned all over? Okay. So now we're going to get the perfect pairing of the Texas A-stick, if you have that, or another dry white wine. And we're going to add, let me just make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself on my recipe. We are going to add half a cup, 4 ounces of white wine. It's okay if you get a little bit extra. And I'm going to actually, the back is getting hot on mine, so I'm going to pull that over. And we're going to add about 4 ounces. I'm going to add a generous 4 ounces. And then we're going to just cover that. Turn your flame down to a medium low. Put your lid on. And we're just going to let that simmer. And we want it to kind of get tender, the chicken to get tender to the touch. Okay, so now we're going to start working on our sauce. Our tomato sauce, the tomato portion of the chicken dish. Now for this portion, we're going to dice an onion. And you can do a medium dice on this. If you do not like an onion, this is certainly something that you could sub a shallot for. You could also, if you wanted to layer some other flavors, you certainly could by maybe adding some celery or even some diced carrots and additional herbs. But we're going to simply do rosemary and white onion. This recipe is really one of those foundational building block recipes. This is one of those recipes that's been passed down from all the grandmas of all the ages. And you can kind of use what you have on hand. Well, you can use what you have on hand. And I know in Texas, you have a really nice climatic, you're in a very nice climatic region where rosemary does wonderfully in the garden. And so I've just done a little chop, got about a cup of white onions, and I'm using a I don't see that coming on. There we go. Yeah, I smell the gas, but I don't see the flame on that. I'm using a really nice, just a thick or a deep skillet, like a 2.5-inch skillet. So let's start by combining a 1/4 cup of olive oil in our skillet with our diced onion. And a sprig of rosemary. This is certainly chef's choice of herbs. You don't have to do rosemary if you don't want, if you don't like it. But we're going to put one sprig of rosemary in our skillet with those onions, and just let the oils of that rosemary start to release into the oil. You could add some fennel or thyme, oregano. If you don't have, if it's a season where you don't have access to fresh herbs, certainly dry herbs are a good substitute. I'm sure you know that dry herbs are so much more potent than fresh herbs, and so you'll want to reduce the amount of dry herbs that you have accordingly. I'm just going to kind of clear off my station. One thing I do when I'm teaching my classes to my students is we always take a couple minutes and clean as we go, because the worst is to have a yummy meal and feel so satisfied and then look at a dirty kitchen. That means you got to go back to work. So I'm just going to take a second and clear up some stuff. And then let's I'm going to turn this a little bit lower. We want those onions to become translucent and tender. We don't want them to turn dark brown. And all the while, our chicken for some reason, oh, there we go, I got it. Okay. Make sure that chicken is good. We have 20 minutes on the chicken.
Yeah, you got 15 minutes.
Okay. So, see, we're about to have an urgent care issue. Okay, so we need, after we've kind of given our chicken, our olive oil and our onion and our rosemary a little time there, we're going to go ahead and add, just following along this recipe, our crushed tomatoes. We just need 2 cups, 16 ounces. So I have a little bit bigger can here. I'm just going to leave a little bit. We want to have a nice balance of sauce to chicken. And so 2 cups is really nice. We're going to add that in there. And then we're going to start off with, now my crushed tomatoes that I bought had a low sodium content. So I know that I'm going to need at least 1 teaspoon of a really yummy, flaky sea salt in my sauce. And I'm going to need a good pinch of pepper. And I put in there crushed red pepper is an option. I was just teaching a class the other night, and we were talking about how your taste buds are looking for different flavors as they're enjoying, as we're enjoying our meal that we're cooking. And so we're always looking for a balance. And I think heat is one of those things that can be a little bit intimidating and often overlooked. But the idea of that crushed red pepper in this sauce is to just leave a little echo in your mouth that you have eaten something really delicious. It's a little whisper of what you just had. So if you don't like that at all, for sure leave it out. I want to give you, as that's simmering, it needs to simmer for about 5 minutes or so. 20, I think I have 20 on the recipe. What we want to do is remove that canned flavor out of that sauce. So we're going to bring that, kind of watching it back and forth. If you want to make this sauce your own and add a couple of different elements, I have some basil that I made. It's from my garden. You could add a spoonful of not basil, pesto. I didn't make the basil. Pesto that I made from my garden. You certainly can add that. I also have some really yummy sweet peppers. If you've been following along on my Instagram engagements with Kiepersol, you'll see I'm always talking about peppers. So you could chop up some sweet peppers and add a little dimension. But this evening we're going to do the same thing that I told you. I'm just following the basic building blocks. So we're going to keep giving this a stir. We're hoping to bring out a little bit of that caramelized flavor in the tomatoes and develop some of that richness. And at the same time, release some of the flavors from the rosemary. Now, I really like that this recipe just says throw in a sprig of rosemary. I think that's a really liberating experience to just throw in a sprig and then we can remove it. But if you want to maximize the rosemary flavor, feel free to just strip that rosemary and give those rosemary leaves a really good fine chop, and that'll really multiply the flavor. So I can see that my olive oil and onions and everything is marrying together nicely. The flavors are, I can see that the colors are darkening, so that means the depth of the flavors are deepening. I can smell my chicken. I'm starting to get really hungry. And so in this last maybe 5 minutes of time that we have for that sauce, let's start thinking about dessert. Okay, so this is a really awesome recipe, and I'm not bragging. I didn't write the recipe. It's not an original idea by me, but I really love that it's one of those things that allows you to have a handy way to utilize some delicious wine. You may have a cup left over, but even more than just utilizing it to have another way to use your wine, as you may have a little bit left over. I think it really increases the usability of wine. It brings it into our everyday experiences, and it, what I think it does is it extends your experience with wine. So here's what we're going to do. In a saucepan, I'm going to make sure I don't burn my other sauce as I'm getting used to that flame. In a small saucepan, we're going to combine 1 cup of our dessert wine, which is the Texas Azuca Artis. That's the one that I've tested with this. It's delicious. And let's see, measuring cup. We will use, kind of got my vinaigrette holding my key. Here we'll do. Sugar. We have a cup of sugar, and we're just going to estimate that this is an 8-ounce measuring cup. And so we're going to do a cup of wine, equal parts wine to sugar. And then we're going to add half of our berries. We have a raspberry and a blackberry. Now, you absolutely could do blueberries or cherries. You could do all one type of berry, but I like the blend, those different flavors that we get. And so I'm just adding half of each packet right now of berries. And we're going to put that on the stove over low flame and keep an eye on it. And we're going to, well, oh, it came on. That's where it read my mind. I'm in business. Okay, so we're gonna put that over a medium-low flame. We just don't want it to boil over. And I will tell you, the first time I made this recipe a while ago, I got overconfident and I turned my back on it and it boiled over. And I don't know that there's anything worse than syrup boiling over on your stove. My stove ended up getting a makeover. It's cleaner than it was before I made this recipe. So we're just going to keep our eyes on that, give it a stir every so often. You want those berries to kind of break apart. It's okay if they stay in clusters a little bit, but we want them to release their juices. Okay, my sauce, I don't know what yours looks like, but my sauce is caramelized on the edges. It's reduced by about a third, and it is ready for the chicken. So I'm going to taste it just to get an idea of what the salt content is. It is perfect. Perfect. That rosemary is released. That tomato has really, let me just pause and say, hand crushed tomatoes are one of my favorite pantry staples. They are so versatile to take on the flavors, whether it's a Mexican flavor or an Italian flavor, or you can do that hearty, savory, onion, celery, beef stock flavor. And so I always have 3 or 4 cans of crushed tomatoes in my pantry. But this is what mine looks like, guys. So you can see it's a nice thick, those onions have softened, the sauce is thickened. And let's look at what my chicken is doing. Okay, so what we want to do is we want the chicken to be tender to the touch. And my chicken is tender to the touch. I've got some caramelized onions. Some of my onions are a little darker than others, but they're going to release a good flavor. We're going to remove those cloves of garlic. This is optional. The recipe suggestion is to remove the cloves of garlic because we don't want a bitter garlic note. If you don't want to do that, you want to leave it, feel free, but I'm scooping my garlic out. Now, while I'm still keeping an eye on my berries, we're going to just pour this sauce in and around my chicken. And I want every last bit of that sauce. And I'm actually going to put skin side back up so that in the oven, that top is going to re-crisp. I'm leaving my rosemary. Okay, let's get that to the side. And we're going to put this in the oven at 325 for our final 20 minutes of cooking. And you see why I love chicken thighs. They can handle that extra cooking. That extra cooking time that a chicken breast or a smaller portion of chicken could not handle. So we're going to get that in there, and we're setting the timer for 20 minutes. I'm turning my oven down. I had it at 425, so we're going to turn that down a touch. And let's go back to our sauce. Has anyone ever made a syrup out of red wine before? Is this something you all have done before? I know I'm in wine country, so this is probably getting thumbs up. Okay.
We'll give it a thumbs up if that.
Okay. Okay, so the trick on this, here's what I noticed. I'm just going to give you my little war story. on this syrup as it's cooking. It's all acting fine and obedient, and I was all confident that things were going to go well. And then all of a sudden, it bubbled up, it frothed up and overspilled. And the whole time I was praying, please, 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 please don't. And it went anyway. So that's why I'm telling you, keep an eye on it. If you notice it's starting to froth up, we want to turn the heat down a little bit. And the ultimate goal here is that we want to do the back of the spoon test. That's a candy, those are candy terms that you all probably know. But we're looking to see, does it stick on the back of the spoon and leave a trace mark? I tasted it just now. And it is, I think it's better than the last time I made it. These berries down here must have a little something extra. It's fantastic. So we're going to give this about 3 more minutes. My flame is a lot, I can tell the fire here, it's a lot hotter. And so I can't speak for you, but mine's getting close. It's leaving a trace. And the nice thing about these berries is it's, they have the seeds in them, but they are high in pectin. And so they have some natural thickeners in them, even though they have these seeds. And that's going to help this as it cools to continue to thicken. And guys, I'm not going to leave this for just a second. I'm going to keep my eye on it. But when I made this a couple of weeks ago, I kept thinking, oh, I don't know that it's thick enough. I don't know that it's thick enough. And I made the most delicious artisanal jam with the Texas Artis Azuka and these berries. It's wonderful on biscuits or toast, a little slice of bread. Really, a really yummy treat. So I don't think you can have too much of that. Okay, mine is getting super close. Here it is frothing. This is what I was telling you about, the warning of the froth. And I'm going to give it 1 more minute, and then we're going to pull this off and let it cool. And once it's cooled about to room temperature, we're going to take the rest of our berries and toss them in that. So today I had the luxury of walking through the vineyard, and the first harvest had already, the main harvest, the harvest had already been conducted. And so I got to go through and just pick a couple clusters that were late bloomers that were left, that had not matured to the point of harvest when harvest time hit. And they are so sweet and delicious that I got the idea that what if we took those grapes, a little bit of our local honey, a little bit of lemon zest, and created another yummy syrup out of that. So I'm taking this off. I've got the spoon test to see how that did. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe it's better here. So when I ran my finger through, it left a trace mark on my syrup. So that's a sign that it's done. And we're just going to set that to the side. I don't know how you guys look, but mine was nice and frothy. That's a good angle right there. You can kind of see in there. Super hot. So we're going to give that a little timeout, a little moment of rest. You know, I liked that for me, I don't know what you guys look like, but for me, the raspberries broke apart, but the blackberries stayed intact. It's really nice, like cobbler effect. So we're going to set that, let's see, I'm going to set that over here on a cold burner so that it doesn't do something and keep cooking. And then we're going to do a little cleanup phase. I'm going to do a time check. I lose all sense of time. Oh, we're doing so good. That means we're going to be able to sit down and eat.
13 minutes.
13 minutes for our chicken. Okay, I feel like I need another, here. Let's see. Thank you.
We have time, we can jump on it.
Yes. Tell us about wine. This is perfect time.
I don't know if the camera will let me adjust. Not quite, but you can kind of see we're getting ready to have sunset. So really beautiful view. We're looking at some Sangiovese right here, which is just a really unique grape that we were just talking about. That's what we're going to be making our little special recipe that Emily's going to be talking about here in just a little bit, but she was able to walk through this vineyard here and kind of pick up some of the late bloomers. So the 3 wines that we've highlighted so far tonight, I know obviously we only encourage you guys to buy 2 of them, which is the Azuca Artis as well as the Edelweiss by Kiepersol. I'm assuming that everybody here has been to Kiepersol. I'm pretty sure. So you guys are somewhat familiar with what we are, but our Edelweiss, the white wine that we have, is it's a stylistic wine. All of our wines that we're highlighting tonight are stylistic wines. And what stylistic means is that we are trying to mimic something else. So in the case of Edelweiss, what we're doing is we are creating a wine that is like a Chardonnay. And so it's kind of like a Fumé Blanc and a Chardonnay, somewhere in between there, which are both very, very delicious. And with stylistic wines, it really gives our winemakers an opportunity to really highlight some of their skills, but really try to find the palate for people that like different things. So like I said, Chardonnay is a grape that naturally grows that most Chardonnay wine is made with. Well, unfortunately, here in the Texas heat, we can't grow those grapes. And so we try to mimic those characteristics through our vineyard and winemaking process, as well as then our Azuca Artis, literally translated, it's Afrikaans word, Azuca Artis, or 2 words, I guess, that literally just means sweet artisan. Basically, if you are an artisan, obviously it takes a craftsman to really get in and master something. And so what we've done is, again, Pinot Noir is another grape that we cannot grow. And it's just too high of heat content here in Texas to be able to accommodate that. So what we have done is made a light-bodied wine out of the grapes that we do have. We do a blend. It's a blend, really, and it's stylistically like a Pinot Noir. So what we've done then, since it's a Azuca, it's sweet, we have then barrel-aged it a little bit and then added a little bit of sweetness in there. So it's really just going to enhance the flavors that we're getting, especially out of that dessert. And then, of course, our Artis is the drier version, so it's a little bit more true to a Pinot Noir in its characteristics. So anyways, if you guys get a chance to come back out, would love to have you guys come out for tours. We're getting ready to hopefully open up the tasting room here again. Basically, with Governor Abbott's rule, we pretty much can only open if we were selling at least 51% food. So we've gotten all the approval. We're just in the process. So hopefully in the next week, maybe 14 days, the tasting room will be open again under the condition that if you buy food, you can come in and enjoy wine as well. Of course, view this beautiful vineyard behind me and this beautiful view.
Hi, guys. I always love all the different nuances and artistry that goes into the grape. And I just love that we have something so wonderful locally to enjoy. And it's as if we've stepped outside into a whole different country when you walk around here. And so, like I said, I had a real treat picking some of these. Picking some of the clusters of grapes. Look how beautiful. These tiny little grapes, they're so delicious. And so I got the idea to take some, see if we could pull out some syrup. So I've added a little pat of butter, a squeeze of lemon juice, a couple tablespoons of honey, and a splash of just a filtered water. And we're going to have that over, it's on high flame right now. We're going to turn that over a low flame. And I'm going to put a lid on that. I don't think I can use that lid. No, I'll use this big lid. We're just going to put a lid over it and allow that to kind of bust up and weep. Now I know we've got about, 5 more minutes on our chicken? 7. So I was close. So I know I had a question about what were we doing with those pecans. After they've toasted, we're going to give them a rough chop, okay? Just a rough. We want to notice that they're pecans and all those beautiful sweet chunks and nuttiness. And so just a, kind of the bite-sized thoughts. It's okay if you have a few whole. Oh, I'm blocking. Thank you. And now we're going to plate. We're going to start with our salad. So I have a nice gratin dish that kind of accents the shape of the green beans. All my things have kind of come to a nice room temperature. And I'm going to give this another toss. So we've got our green beans and beets. And like I said, we've prepared a serving of 4. So I'm going to plate that. And we're all about the colors and textures and balance. And those golden beets, if you were able to find some of those, I think they're so pretty against the green bean. And you certainly could put this all together on one plate. That chicken's going to be kind of saucy. And because of that, I just thought it would be nice to have everything kind of separated. Okay. So we've got our green beans, beets, that have been roasted and blanched and all those things. And we're just going to give it each a sprinkle of our toasted pecans. Like I said, you could add almond slivers or pistachios, hazelnuts, walnuts. You could even leave the nuts out. You could even do a candied nut. Next, we're going to take our goat cheese. And this can be, you could use some feta. You could use a nice creamy, let's see, besides feta, lost my thoughts. Blue cheese. You could use a fresh mozzarella. But I like the pinch. Just breaking this into chunks. So we're going to add I'm doing about 5 chunks of goat cheese pinches per serving. And I found at the grocery store some yummy honey goat cheese, a honey flavored goat cheese. And I was just thinking how wonderful that would go with our honey mustard vinaigrette that I'm finding such a nice pairing with the beets. Okay, so now we've got our main ingredients. Let's see, I'm needing a spoon. I've used all my spoons. We've come to the point in the evening where I have no fresh spoons. Here we go. I'm going to give that vinaigrette another stir. And I have this big measuring cup, so I'm going to do a drizzle that helps me control the amount that I'm pouring out. I'm going to do about 3 teaspoons per serving. You certainly can do more or less, but that kind of gives a nice coat over everything. And the other thing I really like about this beet and green bean, if we were to have our chicken's not ready, if we were to already dress our leaves, our leafy green salad, it would start to wilt. So that's another really nice thing about this version of a salad is we can prepare it a couple minutes in advance and it doesn't lose its integrity. I also suggested a little bit of a salty Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. When I was at the grocery store today, I saw just a pre-shredded version, freshly pre-shredded, not packaged with the anti-caking ingredients that you can see in a bag, but just a freshly grated in a container from their deli at Fresh by Berkshire's. And so I grabbed that quickly. Sprinkle a little bit of that Parmesan cheese over your salad. And I'm going to set this to the side. We are going to check on our syrup. We are almost to the eating point. Okay, let's look at our syrup here. Oh, it is absolutely beautiful. I'm so thankful. I am so thankful. Let's see, we need a ramekin. And we're gonna pour this out, and then I'm gonna kind of toss it. Oh, you can tell this is wonderful. This is a nice, runny, jammy consistency. That wine and the sugar reduced into just a delicious syrup. This would really be good over pancakes for your breakfast tomorrow morning, or French toast in the restaurant at Kiepersol. Maybe we can throw in some red wine syrup to go with your French toast. And the next part of this recipe, let's get a bowl. I hear my grapes doing something over here. I'm so excited about that. We're gonna combine our, I need a big bowl, we'll use this. We're gonna combine our berries, our fresh berries with the sauce, and then I'm gonna scoop up some ice cream in just a second. So we have the rest of our berries and the rest of our sauce. I know I keep walking all over. I'm sorry, it's probably a pain to watch me. And look at how absolutely beautiful that warm syrup is breaking apart those raspberries and the blackberries. And I'm going to scoop out the rest of this. You don't want to waste one bit. Absolutely, you could use any type of wine from Kiepersol or another favorite. Certainly, a sweet red wine just begs to be used in a dessert fashion. So we're going to set that to the side. And that was my timer for the chicken. See, we're doing so good, guys. We've got everything coming together at just the right time. Get this big creamy part out of the way because we're going to check this out. Oh, the chicken skin has crisped and the sauce is all bubbly and it has turned this yummy caramelized rusty red color. It's absolutely beautiful. So I know that this was not exactly in the recipe. It was in a suggestion in the recipe, but it wasn't in the recipe ingredients. But what we're going to do is take some more of that Parmesan cheese and just sprinkle it over to add that nutty, salty cheesiness that we love so much. And you can serve this over pasta or potatoes, rice. Today, we're just talking about building the basic building blocks of cooking. So this is a foundational recipe that you can take and make your own. So all we did today is just how to handle this protein and how to create a delicious, really heirloom, traditional recipe that you're going to pass down to your kids and their kids are going to talk about the time they came over to your house and ate this, and how they never could quite get it as good as you. Let's make it pretty. Okay, so that's one of the 4 that I'm going to serve. But this, to me, says welcome home. Welcome to the dinner table. Let's scoop up our ice cream. Well, first let's check on our, no sense in rushing. Let's check on our grapes. So already, I didn't even mash my, let's do it. I didn't mash my grapes yet. I haven't macerated them. I've just simply let the steam and the heat release the juices. And it will take a little bit of time to turn this into a syrup and release this. But the smell of the honey with the grapes and the lemon, absolutely, I think it's heaven. Let me mention one thing. I love that seed in these grapes. It's like a grape nut texture. And so don't worry about that. If you end up getting some little grapes with seeds in them, just enjoy that aspect of it. And eat up. So let's serve our dessert, and then we're going to sit down with a glass of wine. Here we go. We have some really yummy vanilla ice cream I've been looking forward to all day. Okay, let's see. My ice cream scoop is here. And I have some, here we go, some homemade vanilla ice cream. Yeah, where did that come from? Everyone's wondering what I'm talking about food source. I have some homemade granola. You could certainly leave it out. You could use some candied nuts, your favorite granola from the grocery store. I saw a really wide selection of granola today when I was grocery shopping. So this is like soft serve consistency. This is the best. We've had it sitting out for a little bit. Okay, so let's make this pretty. We've got our scoop of vanilla ice cream, and we've got our berry wine syrup that has just gotten to the most just ooey gooey thick consistency. And now for my little bit of crunch that we want to balance out, like I talked about at the beginning, we're thinking about all the different flavors and textures. And so in our sweet, we want a little bit of crunch. Okay, does anyone have any questions? I feel like I have monopolized the evening. Any cooking questions? Has anyone tasted anything yet? I'm about to have a scoop of this ice cream. It's the chef's prerogative to have sweets first.
The salad was amazing.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes, we love the salad, and I'm sure we're going to love the vanilla ice cream as well.
Okay. I'm so glad to hear. I don't know that I'm going to share this with the other people in this room. When I've made this syrup before, I have not had it with vanilla ice cream. It is so good. So
Good to know.
I'm so glad to have been here with you guys. I'm sad our night is ending. It's close.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for walking through this with me. It was fun to be in this kitchen for the first time. I know that this is a weird time in our world, but it's just so nice to be able to connect and walk through some things with you guys. So I look forward to connecting with you guys again in the future.